We are now on record. Okay, so the first thing we're going to try and do is find the x and y intercepts of the line. Now we know this is a linear equation because we have a x and a y in it and no x squared to y squared. It's a first degree, no exponents, a first degree equation. And it happens to be a slant line because it has both the x and the y in it. We'll do problems, one or two problems with horizontal and vertical lines after this problem, just as a reminder what those look like. But if all we're looking for are the x and the y intercepts, so if you remember the rule, to find an x-intercept, if that's all you're looking for is to find the x-intercept, you can do it by taking your equation without doing any extra work of bringing it into the y equals mx plus b form, though you could if you wanted to, but just replace the y with 0. Because in order to be an x-intercept, it has to be on the x-intercept, which means that the y value has to be 0. Excuse me, can't answer. Okay, so if we replace the y with 0 in this equation, remember 2 times 0 is going to be 0. Any term that has a y in it just disappears. So all I'm left with is negative 5x equals negative 20, which we can solve easily by dividing by negative 5. We get x equal to positive 4, because a negative and negative is positive, which means that my x-intercept is 4, 0. Again, if you just say the x-intercept is 4, that is perfectly okay. In order to find the y-intercept, we do a similar thing. But instead of replacing the y with 0, to find the y-intercept, we replace the x with 0. We put x equal to 0 into our equation, again, in the same fashion. Any term that has an x in it is going to be 0, so we can just ignore it, and all we're left with is 2y equals negative 20. And if I divide by 2, that gives me that the y is negative 10. And you can say the y-intercept is negative 10, though the more correct way to say it is to say the y-intercept is 0, negative 10. Because in order to be a y-intercept, the x has to be 0. Okay. Now let's look at the second part of this question. How do we find the slope of the line? So then if we want to find the slope of the line, so I'm going to go over here and do it on this part of the board. So here we're at B, and we want to find the slope. Whenever we're given the equation of a line, when we're ever given not points on the line, but just what the equation is, we can find the slope by putting it in the y equals mx plus b form, what we call the slope-intercept form. So if I have this equation, 2y minus 5x equals negative 20. If I want to put in the slope-intercept form, I have to get the x's to the other side. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So that'll give me 2y equals 5x minus 20. Remember, I always put the x term first because we want it in this format. And I have to divide everything by 2 to get it in this slope-intercept form, so that I get y equals 5 over 2x minus 10. Notice that that means that my slope is 5 over 2. Remember what that means in terms of what the slope is giving you. It's telling you rise over run. It will, as you go from one point to another, you go up 5, 2 to the right. Or vice versa, you could go down 5, but then you'd have to go 2 to the left. In other words, a negative 5 over negative 2. And of course, if you see, the b in this case turned out to be negative 10, which is the y-intercept, which is what we got over there as well. In other words, I can find the y-intercept as well. If all I want is the slope in the y-intercept, then I go to this format. Since I wanted both the x and the y-intercepts, that's why I did it using the zeros. Well, I didn't ask you to do this, but if I had asked you to graph this, you could have done it by using the intercepts. Because if you know the x-intercept is 4, that means you go 4 along the x. And the y-intercept is negative 10. Let's do this by negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10. Let's say this is negative 10 on the y-axis, so this is 4 on the x-axis. Then you could just get your line this way. Notice you could have done it using the slope-intercept form also, because then you would start at negative 10, but then you'd have to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 to the right, and then again up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 to the right, and you would end up at the same exact place. Notice it's not so easy to see because I do not have graph paper. That's why I keep suggesting try it on graph paper. Okay, so this is a little bit of a review of what we had done on a week ago, basically a week ago. What we also did is we talked about the concept of slope and what the slope tells us. Does anybody have any questions about this before I erase? Okay, so then let me just make. I'm going back to this equation, y equals 5 over 2x minus 10. Well, we said the slope of the line was 5 over 2, because that's a number in front of the x. As long as it's y alone, that's what we get. We mentioned that the slope tells us a number of things. Number one, a positive slope tells us that the line is going up from left to right, it's rising. If my slope is negative, as you go from left to right, you would be going down. So that's number one, what the slope tells us. Number two, we can talk about parallel lines. And we can talk about perpendicular lines. And this is something we talked about last time as well. Parallel lines are two lines that go right next to each other, but no matter how far you extend them, they're never going to meet, they're never going to get any closer, they stay the same amount apart. Which means that no matter how much if one is slanted that like this, the other one has to be slanted the exact same amount. And then we can tell the slant from basically the slope. So parallel lines have the same, equal or same slope. So if I wanted to test if I had another line, another equation, and I wanted to know if that line was parallel to this line or not, what I do is I find the slope of my next line, and it would also have to be 5/2. Now, when I say it has to be 5/2, it means that it has to, in its simplest form, be 5/2, because it might be 10/4, which really is the same as 5/2. But the two lines, in order to be parallel, would have to have the exact same slope. Now, perpendicular lines are lines that meet in right angles, something like this. You get this square corners over here. A lot of perpendicular lines in our lives. The corners of the board over here. And just one example of where you have perpendicular lines, you have right angles. It turns out that the perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Which means if my original slope is 5/2, a perpendicular line would have to have a slope that's the reciprocal, 2/5, with the opposite sign. Since this one is positive, it doesn't have any sign at all, means it's positive. The perpendicular line would have to have a negative slope, but it wouldn't be just negative, you'd negative and flip it over. If your original line has a negative slope, then your perpendicular line will have a positive slope, again, reciprocal. You change the sign and you flip it over to get the slope of the perpendicular line. Let's talk about writing the equations of lines. I would say the main focus of our graphing of linear equations for Math 136 is being able to write the equation of a line. I would say if I look at the midterm, if I look at the final, those are the type of questions you're really required to know. Yes, you do have to know how to graph a line. Yes, you have to know how to put it in the y equals mx plus b form. Yes, you have to know how to find its intercepts. But the most important thing you have to be able to do is take a description of a line, and from that description, write the equation of a line. And I'm going to show you how we can go about doing that. I actually am using that practice example sheet that I put on for week 2. It's practice example sheet 2. If you print it out, you might have it in front of you. I'm going to do some of the different examples on this sheet. So, keeping this information in mind, let's first do I would say 3 or 4 different types of situations where you would be asked to write the equation of a line. Now, the first one is, what if I describe the line by giving you 2 points on the line. Once you have 2 points in the line, you can draw the line. Let's say I tell you that I have 1 point on the line is 5, -6. And let's say another point on the line is 2, -4. Now, it's question number 11 on this practice sheet. If I were to have drawn this is what it would look like. 5, -6 would be 5 to the right, 6 down. And 2, -4 would be 2 to the right and 4 down. Right up here. So I have these 2 points, and if I connect them, I just take a ruler and make a straight line. Here's my line. I can draw that line, but I don't know what the equation of that line is. Now, if I were very accurate, maybe I could figure out what the slope is, what the y-intercept is. But I'm going to show you how to do this algebraically. How do we find the equation of this line? You don't even have to graph it. You could just do this according to the algebra. Okay, the first thing is, whatever we're going to do, we're going to look for our lines in the slope-intercept form. We're going to write the lines in y equals mx plus b form. And what I want to do is I want you to remember to find how to find the slope of the line. I want you to find the slope of the line. What is the slope of the line? Remember, there's a slope formula. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do this while I take attendance. Okay, so that's what I want you to do right now, is take it. Just listen for your name also. Okay. Okay, Jesus, I see you sent me a text that you were here, so I'm marking you here. Jackson. Yeah, good. See, you're here. Tiffany. Tiffany, are you here? Kayla Brantley. Kayla?
Here.
Good.
Morning, Professor.
Good morning. Tashana, I know you're here because you answered questions already. Good morning to you. Dion, I know you're here because I spoke to you. Wensley. Good morning. Tatiana. Tatiana? Oh, good morning. I see you answered. Awa Diallo. Awa. Good morning. Ashay Douglas. Good morning. Eliana. Eliana, you're here? Good. Christopher Fleming. Christopher Fleming. Does anybody know Christopher Fleming? Christopher Fleming, okay. Emily Gomez. Emily? Anastasia. Anastasia? Zenabu. Zenabu here? Ismail,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
If you skip my name, I'm sorry, Tiffany's here. Tiffany Basilio.
Tiffany,
morning.
okay, good, I'm glad you told me you're here. Got you. Jaden,
I'm here.
good morning. Ashiana. Ashiana, oh, good morning. Good morning. Anijah, John. Thomas John. Thomas here,
I'm here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Paul,
Here.
good morning.
Morning.
Ashley Moorhead. Good morning. Angelica,
Here.
good morning.
Good morning.
Tayon, good morning. Akeem. Akeem here? Oh, Emily, good morning. I see you now. Akeem here? Craig Ricketts. Giovanni,
Javani, I'm here.
Javani. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Devanley,
Here.
good morning. And Najay Kathy. Najay? Okay. And I see a bunch of people have gotten the answer to this question. So let's look at that. If you recall, the way we find the slope of a line is with the equation y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we can pick either point to be the x1, y1, which makes the other point the x2, y2. So in this case, if I'm doing y2, I'm doing -4 minus -6. Be very careful with your signs. It's y2 minus y1, and the y1, it's two negatives because you're subtracting a -6 over x2, which is 2, minus 5, which is x1. Okay, now we just have to simplify this. So when we have two negatives, it turns out to be a positive. So really this becomes -4 plus 6, which is +2, and 2 minus 5, which is -3. In other words, my slope is -2/3. Okay, so we've accomplished one thing. We found the slope of the line. Okay, and you're right. I see a bunch of people put in that it's negative 2/3. Okay. So that's the first thing. We know when we want to write the equation of this line, the line's equation is going to be y equals negative 2/3 x plus b. Because the slope, we found out, is negative 2/3. Whenever we want to find the equation of a line, the first thing we concentrate on is finding the slope. And we're halfway there. The only thing we're missing now is the b. So the question is, how do we find the b? How do we find what the y-intercept is? So here's what we do. We take any point on the line, and it doesn't matter if I take the 5, -6, which is 1 point, or the 2, -4, the other point. We take, let's take this one, looks like the numbers are a little simpler, and we take the x, that's 2 here, and we're going to replace our x with 2 in the equation. And the y we're going to replace with a -4. I have to use the matching numbers. I have to replace the, if I had used the other point, I would have had to put a 5 for the x and a -6 for the y. Once I've done that, and it sometimes is a little bit of a difficult situation because we're going to be dealing with fractions very often, but here's what we do. We get -4 equals negative 2/3 times 2 plus b. Now what we have to do is simplify this. And if you have a calculator, this is going to help you quite a bit. You should have on your calculator a fraction button. So if you want to do the fractions on the calculator, that's perfectly okay. I'm going to do this without the calculator because I really think you should be able to work fractions. Since there's fractions and whole numbers, I'm going to put the whole numbers over 1. So that'll be easy for me to keep track as to what is the numerator and what is the denominator of my fraction. So that'll give me -4/1 equals, okay, now I have these two fractions that I have to multiply. So I remember, I look if I can cross cancel, and there's nothing to cross cancel. So I multiply the numerators together, which will give me -4/3 plus b/1. And in order to get the b alone, I'm going to have to get rid of this -4/3. Now, since this is negative, I'm going to add 4/3 to both sides. Okay, that'll get rid of this, and I'll be left with b over here. But what I have to do, and that's what I'm saying, this you can use your calculator for. But if not, you want to add -4/3, -4/1 with +4/3. And in order to do that, you really need a common denominator. Let's put it over here. And if I look at you can either add it down or you can add it next to each other. The common denominator between 1 and 3 is going to be 3. So remember how you do this. You divide the original denominator into the new denominator. 1 into 3 gives you 3. 3 times -4 is -12. Here, this is 3 into 3 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. Again, remember how you do it. You take your old denominator, divide it into the new denominator, and multiply the numerator by it. 1 divided by 3 is 3, times -4 is -12. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 1 times 4 is 4. And I now have a common denominator, so I can combine them. -12 over 3 plus 4 over 3 is -8 over 3. And now I can write my equation, y equals -2/3 x minus 8 over 3. So again, this got a little bit complicated because we had fractions, but the concept is take any point on the line and stick it into the equation. The only thing you won't have is the b, and you'll have to solve for the b. And that will give you, we know that this line has equation y equals -2/3 x, because that's my slope, minus 8 over 3, because my y-intercept happens to be -8 over 3. Okay. I'm going to do a couple more examples, a little bit different than this, and then I'm going to give you some to try on your own. Okay. Can I erase this? Everybody okay with this? Anybody still need this on? Okay. So then let's look at another question. Suppose I gave you.
Question, Professor, I have a question
Sure.
for you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this whole problem that we just finished doing, this is called finding
You're
the.
not coming out clear. Can you talk slowly, because there's a lot of
Okay, sorry.
interference.
I'm sorry, can you hear me clearly?
Can you get closer to your mic?
How about now? I'll text it.
Somehow there's a lot of static. I don't know why. Are you texting it to me? Okay. I'm waiting. Okay, I'm not. Okay, let's see. Is this problem considered finding the equation of line? Yes, that's exactly what we did. We took a description of a line. We just had 2 points on the line. And we wanted to find the equation of the line. As I said, that's one of the most common types of questions that you can deal with in this course about linear equations. Okay, let's try a slightly different problem, but you'll see that there's a similar method that's used in all of these questions. Again, what's going to be the hard part is if we end up with fractions. If the numbers are nice and even, that makes the problem much simpler. But let's say I have a question like this. I'm giving you a line 3x plus y equals 5. And I want to write the equation of the line that goes through the point that is parallel. So listen to this question. This is, let's call it line 1. We want to write the equation of a second line. Let's call it line 2. That's going to have this description. It's going to be parallel to line 1. And it has to go through the point zero, 4. So again, I'm giving you a description of the line, and I want to write the equation of the line. Again, we're writing the equation of a line. And the description is, and I didn't give you points on the line. I only gave you actually 1 point on the line. I didn't give you 2 points. But what I did tell you is that it's going to be parallel to a given line. The line that we were given, the original line, 3x plus y equals 5. Again, here we're looking on figuring out the equation of a second line, line 2. Now I know, this is my thinking. I always write y equals mx plus b. I want the equation of a line, it should be in the form y equals mx plus b. Now, sometimes the equations are not in that form, they might be in what we call the standard form, but when we want to write the equation of a line, we want to go right to this y equals mx plus b. And again, the first thing we want to do is figure out what the slope of my line is going to be. What is that m? That's the first thing we're going to fill into the equation. And before, I gave you 2 points on the line. So since I gave you 2 points on the line, you were able to figure out the slope. Now I'm not giving you 2 points. There's only 1 point on this line. But I told you it was parallel to a given line. I told you it was parallel to 3x plus y equals 5. And I know the fact that parallel lines, what do we know? They have to have, if they're parallel lines, then the slopes have to be the same. Parallel lines have the same slope. So if I take line 1 and I can figure out what the slope of line 1 is, that will also give me the slope of line 2. Again, when I want to write the equation of line, I want to find the slope first. Here, I'm going to have to find the slope of the first line because that is also going to give me the slope of my second line. Well, if I go to this line 1, the way I can find the slope is by putting that line 1, into y equals mx plus b form. In other words, I have to bring this 3x to the other side. So that gives me y equals negative 3x plus 5. I know line 1 has this equation. Now that's not the equation I'm looking for, because that's not line 2, that's line 1. But what it does tell me is that my slope happens to be negative 3, because once I get the y alone, the number in front of the x, the coefficient of the x, is the slope. So now I know the slope for line 1 was negative 3, so the slope for line 2 also has to be negative 3, because the 2 lines are parallel. So here I am. I know line 2, the one I'm trying to find the equation of, is going to be y equals negative 3x plus b. What I'm missing is the b, but I do what I did before. As soon as I figured out what the slope of the line is, and I'm trying to figure out what the b is, I take a point on the line, and all I need is 1. any point. Now, in this case, I don't have much choice because the only point they gave me was 0, 4. I know that the 0, 4 has to fit into the equation. That means wherever there's an x, I'm going to put a 0. Wherever there's going to be a y, I'm going to put it be a 4. Now, this is going to be much easier because I don't have fractions. It gives me 4 equals, well, negative 3 times 0 is just 0 plus b. And that just means that the b is 4. That was easy. Or I could have thought 0, 4, that means the y-intercept has to be 4 because when the x is 0, the y value is the y-intercept. And now I can give you the equation of my whole line too. Here it is. Y equals negative 3x plus 4. This is the equation of the line that I was looking for. It's not, the original line was y equals negative 3x plus 5. This line, the one that we're looking for, is y equals negative 3x plus 4. Notice the two lines are parallel because they have the same slope, but their y-intercepts have to be different because if they have the same y-intercept, they're the same line. So therefore, that's how we do that. Is that clear? Okay, I want to do one more problem, similar, not exactly the same, but similar, for us to get an idea of, again, the idea of how to write the equation of the line. I'm going to erase this and put another problem on the board. Actually, I'm doing number 15 on this problem sheet. I'm going to erase this and go on to the next. Suppose I wanted to find the equation of a line that's going to be perpendicular to 7x plus 9y equals 18, and through the point negative 7, 0. Again, I'm looking again for the equation of a line, and here's the description of my line. They're not, again, not giving me 2-pointer line, they're giving me a line that the new line that I want to write the equation on is going to be perpendicular to, and they're giving me a point on the line. They're giving me that the line goes to the point negative 7, 0. Again, this is my line 1. And the new line that I want to write the equation of, line 2, is going to be perpendicular to that line, and it's going to go through a point. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes and see if you can figure out what should the slope of my new line, my line 2, what should the slope of that line be? Giving you a few minutes to try that out. So we go to our first line, which is the line 7x plus 9y equals 18. And we remember the fact that the lines are perpendicular means that their slopes are opposite reciprocals. I have to find the slope of my first line. And then in order to figure it out, I'll take that slope. It's not going to be the same slope because the lines are not parallel. It's going to be opposite reciprocal. That means I'm going to first get this original line, the first line in the y equals mx plus b form. I'm going to subtract 7x from both sides, which will give me 9y equals negative 7x plus 18. And then I'm going to divide everything by 9, which will give me that y equals negative 7 over 9x plus 2. This is line 1. This is my original line. This is not the line that we're looking for the equation of. We're just looking to put this in the y equals mx plus b form so we can find its slope. The slope of this line is negative 7 over 9, which means the slope of this line, the slope of line 2, has to be the opposite reciprocal. It has to be this number flipped over with the opposite sign. This is negative. My answer is going to be positive 9 over 7. Now let me see. I see a few people did get it. Excellent, excellent. Those of you who got 9 over 7, that's excellent. Okay, so now we have to go a step further. We now know the slope of my line. We want to now write the equation of the line. Remember how we do that. Y equals mx plus b. We replace the m with 9 over 7. Y equals 9 over 7 x plus b. I'm going to give you a few minutes to see if you can figure out what the b should be. Now see if you can figure out the b.
I thought it was negative 7 over 9, not 9 over 7.
Negative 7 over 9 was the slope of my original line, line 1. But I wanted a line that was perpendicular to it. What does perpendicular mean?
The opposite?
Opposite and reciprocal, which means that you have to flip it over.
And switch the sign?
So you have to flip it over and then change its sign. That's how we got 9 over 7.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you have to read these questions carefully. Is it talking about perpendicular? Is it talking about parallel? Because perpendicular means opposite reciprocal lines, slopes, and parallel means the same slope. Okay, I see Alwa got an answer. Let's see if anybody else comes up with the answer. Okay, let's do this together now. Remember what we do. Once we figured out the slope, we take the point. If there's more than one point, you can use either one, but there's only one point that they gave us, and stick it into the equation. So the y is going to be 0, and the x is going to be negative 7. So this will give me 0 equals 9/7 times -7 plus b. Now, this -7 is really -7/1. And if you notice this, the numerator and the denominator cancel out here. I can cancel this out, and this will give me -1, which gives me 0 equals 9 times -1, which is -9 plus b. And of course, then what I can do is I can then get the b. This was easier than the other one because the fractions canceled out. Add 9 to both sides, which gives me the b equals +9. So the equation of my line becomes y equals 9/7x plus 9. And this is the equation of the line that we were looking for. Notice its slope is the negative reciprocal of this. It's opposite, and it's the reciprocal, and its y-intercept is 9. Excellent. Angelica, that was excellent. I see a bunch of you did get it right. So this is the type of problem. Again, each of the problems were somewhat different, but they all expected you to first figure out what the slope of your line is going to be, and then take a point and stick it into the equation, and then find the equation of the line. Okay, I'm going to now give you one to try on your own. Okay, and I'll start you off on this one. Okay, suppose I give you a line. I know my line has an x-intercept of 3 and a y-intercept of -6. So how I'm describing this line is I'm telling you where it's crossing the x and the y axis. You could even graph this if you wanted to. The x-intercept is 3. You don't have to graph it, but if you want to take a look at it, the y-intercept is -6. So here's your line. I want you to find the equation of this line. And I'll just give you a little bit of a hint. Remember, to say the x-intercept is 3 is equivalent to saying that the point it's going through is 3, 0. To say the y-intercept is -6 really means that the point is 0, -6. The x-intercept has a y of 0. The y-intercept has an x of 0. So this is essentially giving you 2 points, and I'm asking you to find the equation where you have 2 points. I'm going to give you a few minutes to try this on your own.
Find the slope.
I want you to find the equation of the line. Obviously, the first step is finding. Okay, I think we've had enough time. I see a couple of people have come up with the answers. Again, whenever I ask for the equation of a line, I want to go to the y equals mx plus b form. I want to write the slope-intercept form of the line equation. And first thing we want to do is find the slope. Now, in this case, they didn't tell me about parallel or perpendicular, anything like that, but they did give me 2 points. They gave me the point 3, 0, because they said the x-intercept is 3, and they gave me the y-intercept -6, which gave me the point 0, -6. So if I call this my x1, y1, and this my x2, y2, I can use the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to get the slope of the line. It's going to be -6 minus 0, y2 minus y1, over x2, 0 minus 3. So what that gives me is -6 minus 0 is -6. 0 minus 3 is -3. And if I divide -6 by -3, I get 2. The slope of this line is 2. You could have counted boxes, because if you notice, if you go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then you're going over 1, 2, 3. 6 over 3 would have given you a slope of 2. So the first thing we know is that m is 2. So this becomes y equals 2x plus b. But remember what the b is. The b on any line is the y-intercept. And I don't even have to do any work because they told me what the y-intercept was. They told me the y-intercept is -6. That means my b has to be -6. Or I could have taken either one of those points and stick it into the equation, but I don't have to. My equation becomes y equals 2x minus 6. The slope is 2, the y-intercept is -6. And a few people sent that in as the answer. So that is how we go about finding the equation of a line. Remember what we talked about. First, talk about the slope, figure out the slope. Look at the information you're given to figure out the slope. If it tells you it's parallel to a certain line, then you know you find the slope of your original line. It will also be the slope of your new line. And once you have the slope figured out, then go figure out the b. In this case, it was relatively easy, or take any point and replace the x with the x value and the y with the y value so that you can solve your equation for b. Okay.
Okay, I have a question for you, Professor.
Giovanni, yeah, I was just going to say, Giovanni. Yeah, somebody ask me a question? Who
Yes,
asked me?
I have a question. What if the x-intercept had 2 numbers and the y had 2 numbers? The same concept applies, right?
Okay.
Like say it was 3, 9.
When you're told about an x-intercept, for example, it's telling you where the line is crossing the x-axis. It's crossing the x-axis at 3. But you have to understand that that's a point. And we're talking about the point. This point is the x is 3, the y has to be 0, because you're not going up or down. Similarly, when we talk about the y-intercept being -6, it means you go down 6, but that means that you haven't gone left or right, so the x value has to be 0. In other words, we leave out the zeros because it's understood, but really when we have to work with it, we have to remember a point has 2 numbers, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. It has an x number and a y number. So this point would be the point, not just 3, but 3, 0. Does that answer your question? Why I use 2 numbers there? Every point has 2 numbers associated with it. Okay. I want to talk about what happens if they ask you for equations of lines that are either horizontal or vertical. Let's say I have a question that's like this. I want you to write the equation of a vertical line through the point 6, 7. I want to find the equation of a vertical line. Again, this whole lesson today has been writing equations of lines. Now, when we talk about vertical or horizontal lines, I like to graph. I like to get a picture of that. So if I'm talking about the point 6, 7, that means I'm going 6 to the right and 7 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's the point 6, 7. And we want the equation of a line, a vertical line. Now, sometimes we talk of vertical line, or sometimes we say a line that's perpendicular to the x-axis. It's a line that goes straight up and down. This is what a vertical line looks like. How do we write the equation of a vertical line? And if you recall what we said last time in our discussion about these special lines, we said when we have a vertical line, the equation is always x equals some number. Any vertical line has, the equation is x equals. Any horizontal line, the equation is y equals. So all I have to do is figure out what number should I fill into this. And all I have to know is just one point. The x in this case is 6. All the x's here, 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 no matter what point I take on the line, the x value is going to be 6. So the equation of this line is x equals 6. Whenever you want the equation of a vertical line, it's really quite simple. All you have to do is write x equal. And all you have to do is figure out what the x number is. And you'll know by looking at any point, because the x number is the first number. If I had asked you for a horizontal line through that point, okay, this one was vertical. Let's say we're on a horizontal line. Now, a horizontal line doesn't go up and down, it goes side to side. Here's my horizontal line. A horizontal line always has an equation y equal a number. But what number does it have to be? I just look at the point. Whatever the y is, that's the number. So the equation of this line is y equals 7. But remember, horizontal means straight across, and it's y equals a number. Vertical means up and down, and that means x equals a number. Okay, I think I'm going to stop right here because I want to make a couple of important announcements, number one. And number two, I want to introduce to you our SI, Shireen. So first of all, let me tell you the schedule going forward. On Thursday, the school is closed. There is no sessions. So that's, today is the 14th. On the 16th, there are no sessions. Next Tuesday, which is the 21st of September, there are definitely sessions, but I will not be able to meet with you in person. I will be posting on Blackboard a YouTube video of the class that you are supposed to be watching. It will be posted prior to Tuesday. I won't say you have to watch it only at this time. I will give you the option to watch it anytime before the next session. You will go to Blackboard and you will see very clearly on the side there, it'll say video for September 21st. And you will look at that YouTube video. It will be a lesson just like the lessons we have here. Obviously, I won't be able to answer any of your questions, but if you do have questions, you can always email them to me. In addition, Shireen, our SI, is going to be available to answer questions as well. There will also be posted, either, I'm not sure how I'm posting it yet, either but there will be a worksheet that will be posted that I will expect you to send me the solutions to, so that I can see that you have watched the video and understood what was going on. So that is the 21st. On the September 28th, the same thing is going to occur. I will not be available to meet with you in person, but I will post a video for the 28th, a separate video. But again, you will have to access it on Blackboard, though I will probably send you the YouTube URL number so that if you can go straight to YouTube and get it. Remember, I can tell who has watched the videos and who has not. So I have I'm monitoring the views of the YouTubes, and I will make sure to check. Don't forget to always check your Delta Math to see if there's any new assignments. So far, I think I've given you 4 assignments. I'm going to be posting another assignment. Again, it won't be due until a week from Thursday, the 23rd. That will be the day. Again, if you have any questions, you can always email them or you can ask me in class. I will be in class on the 23rd. Again, the 21st and the 28th are going to be remote sessions that you just watch a video. Okay, that being the case, I'd like to introduce Shireen. I'm going to pin you, Shireen, so that I don't know if they can see you. Everybody should look at, should I make you the host? Shireen? I can't hear you. Unmute
You
yourself.
can hear me?
Now we can.
Okay.
Should I make you the host?
If you want, I think I said it whereby I could that people should be able to see me, but if anybody, can you see me?
Here, I'm making you the host, okay?
Okay.
And you can then pin yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Good morning. My name is Shireen Hudson. As Professor Weinberg said, I am the SI leader for your class. So I usually help you guys understand any concept that she went over in class. SI is basically supplemental instruction. So I'm gonna give you, like, if you need any additional help, I give you videos. Like, I know some people have issues with understanding their calculator. I could look up videos for you on how you could go about using your calculator, but you have to give me like the model so I could get a good idea of what type of calculator you have. If you have any questions about certain topics, especially the ones that you guys went over before I joined the class, you let me know. My hours are Tuesdays to Fridays, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and I'm starting next week. As for the days that Professor do, yeah, I'll write it in chat for you when I'm done my introductions. Just remind me. As following the 21st and the 28th, I believe what Professor Weinberg said. I don't know if I'll be able to take over for the times you guys normally have her. I'll let you know. Just look out for any emails because I'll be using the Blackboard to send out emails. Also, if you have any classes like math, like any math, if you can't attend my sessions because of my time, sooner or later I'll post in Blackboard other sessions that my colleagues are doing, so you'll have a variety. Or if you take in like science, biology 101 or English, there's SI leaders and tutors for those classes, so you'll be able to join them. I just want to remind you that when you do join our sessions, that when you creating your username, make sure you put your first name, last name, and emplo. That helps us keep track of attendance, so we don't have to have paperwork. It creates less paperwork for us. Do anybody have any questions before I turn it back to Professor Weinberg?
Okay, thank you, Shireen. Shireen and I have worked together for a number of terms. I don't even remember anymore how many. It's quite a few already. And she really knows my style, and she knows how I do things, and she's going to help you. And she's been those people who attend her sessions, I found, did very much better on their general work and on their final and midterms as well. So it really is to your advantage. Okay, so she's put her email address on the chat. I guess I'm gonna end this session now, unless somebody wants to ask a particular question. Any questions? Okay, great. So then be well and have a good day, everybody. And I will be first meeting with you again a week from Thursday in person. But you don't forget, next Tuesday, there's no session on Thursday. On the 16th, there's no session. But on Tuesday, the 21st, look out for the YouTube video that's going to be posted on Blackboard. You don't have to look at it exactly at that time, but it probably makes sense. It will run for about an hour and 10 minutes. And again, there will be a worksheet that goes with it. Any questions? Okay, then I'm going to say, have a good day, everybody.
Take care, Professor.
Have a good day.